What would you do if your own mother begged you to protect her fortune, specifically from your brother? This story is intense, and every choice Milan makes pulls her deeper into danger. Listen closely, watch till the very end and decide what you would have done.
Milan Carver had always admired her mother, Renee, for her ability to make life look effortless, even when it wasn't. Their home in Charlotte was filled with polished furniture from Ashley Home Store, Bath and Body Works candles burning year-round, and laughter that seemed to bounce off every wall. Milan believed she knew everything about her mother's past, every triumph and mistake, until the afternoon Renee collapsed in the kitchen and everything she thought she understood unraveled. At the hospital, surrounded by the sterile scent of Clorox wipes and the hum of Philips monitors, Renee whispered a confession Milan wasn't prepared for. "Mon, there's a folder in my closet, Blue. Don't let your brother touch it." Milan froze. "Jalen? Why?" But Renee squeezed her hand, panic flickering in her eyes. "Promise me." Milan promised, tears soaking her Nike sweatshirt sleeves. That night, after Renee was admitted to intensive care, Milan drove home trembling. She opened the closet, found the folder, and nearly dropped it when she saw the contents. Bank statements from Wells Fargo, stock portfolios under an alias, and a life insurance policy worth $2.8 million, all naming Milan as sole beneficiary. Her breath hitched. Why only me? Why hide this? As she reread documents, the front door creaked open. Milan's pulse spiked as Jalen stepped inside, eyes sharp and strangely expectant. "Mom told me you'd be here," he said. "Where's the folder?" Milan clutched it tightly. She suddenly understood her mother's fear.
This hits me really hard. Imagine finding out your dying mother doesn't trust your sibling. Viewers, what would you do in that moment?
Jalen Carver had always been unpredictable, brilliant when sober, reckless when desperate. Milan lost count of how many times she'd bailed him out financially, how many iPhones he'd pawned, how many Uber drivers called demanding payment because he'd run off without settling his fare. Their mother always forgave him, always believed he'd straighten out. But tonight, something in Jalen's demeanor felt dangerous. He stepped closer, his Timberlands thudding across the hardwood. "Give me the folder. Mom wanted us both to have it." Milan backed away. "She didn't say that." He scoffed. "You were always the favorite. She probably told you something dramatic just to keep me from what's mine." Milan's hands trembled. "This isn't mine or yours, it's hers. We should wait for her to wake up." Jalen's jaw tightened. "She won't." Milan flinched. "What does that mean?" Jalen hesitated, then lowered his voice. "Her attorney called me last week. She changed her entire estate. Something about wanting to protect you from me." The room tilted. "Jalen, what did you do?" His eyes flickered with guilt and defiance. "I borrowed money. From people who don't like waiting. They found out Mom had assets. They expect me to deliver." Milan felt her stomach sink. He wasn't just panicked, he was cornered. And whatever debt he owed was large enough to risk tearing apart their family at its most fragile moment. As Jalen reached for the folder again, Milan whispered, "You're not taking this." Jalen's expression darkened. "Then you just made both of us targets."
Viewers, take a moment to process this. Do you trust Jalen right now? Something feels really off. Let me know what you're thinking.
The next morning, Milan carried the folder to the Bank of America branch downtown, hoping to freeze any suspicious activity in her mother's name. The banker, a calm woman named Ms. Carter, studied the documents with a seriousness that made Milan nauseous. "These accounts are active," she said slowly. "Large deposits, frequent withdrawals, and an attempted wire transfer last night." Milan felt lightheaded. "By who?" Ms. Carter hesitated. "It was flagged as unauthorized. But whoever tried knew the last 4 digits of your mother's social security number." Milan's chest tightened. Ms. Carter handed her a printed statement. "Your mother designated you power of attorney 2 months ago. You're the only one who can legally authorize or close these accounts." Milan blinked. 2 months ago? Why would she do that without telling me? Ms. Carter softened her tone. "It's common when a parent wants to ensure protection. Especially when another child has financial instability." Milan swallowed hard. She left the bank feeling the weight of a world she didn't ask for. Outside, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You're holding money that doesn't belong to you. Return it by midnight. She froze, scanning the street, convinced someone was watching from the black Ford Explorer parked across from the Starbucks. She rushed to her car and locked the doors. Jalen had pulled her into something dangerous, and she wasn't sure how far the threat reached. She needed answers from the only person who could give them, her mother. But when she arrived at the hospital, Renee's bed was empty. Panic surged through Milan's veins as she rushed to the nurse's station. "Where's my mother?" she demanded. A young nurse checked the chart. Renee Carver was transferred to observation. Family requested it. Milan blinked. Family? I'm her family. Your brother signed the papers, the nurse replied. Milan felt her skin go cold. My brother doesn't have that authority. Before she could argue further, the elevator chimed. Jalen stepped out holding a bag of fast food, pretending everything was normal. Milan marched toward him. What did you do? She hissed. Jalen sighed. Relax. I moved her to a private room. Too many people around. He handed her a lukewarm Chick-fil-A lemonade. I even got you something. Milan shoved it back. Stop playing games. Did you sign transfer papers? Jalen looked away. She's our mother. I had to do something. Milan's voice cracked. You forged my signature, didn't you? His silence confirmed everything. Milan stormed down the hall and entered the new room, only to find it empty. Sheets pulled back. Machines off. No sign of Renee. Where is she? Milan screamed. A security officer approached. Ma'am, she was discharged. Milan shook her head frantically. Discharged by who? He scanned the screen. Then by J. Carver. Milan's knees nearly buckled. She turned to Jalen, fury and fear mixing into something electric. Where did you take her? Jalen swallowed. I didn't. Milan stared at him. Then who did?
For a minute, would you keep digging or walk away before things get even more dangerous? Have you found yourself in this state before? Tell your own story in the comment.
The hospital erupted into chaos as Milan demanded surveillance footage. Security initially refused until she presented her power of attorney paperwork. An officer finally pulled up video from the side exit. Milan watched as a man in a baseball cap wheeled Renee, still unconscious, into a white Chevrolet Suburban. Not Jalen. Not a nurse. A stranger. Milan's heart pounded. Pause it, she said. The man leaned over Renee, adjusting her blanket. His face turned toward the camera. Milan gasped. She recognized him, Darius Moore. The same man Jalen once owed money to, a man known for collecting debts in ways the police rarely caught. Jalen cursed under his breath. I didn't ask him to take her. Milan spun toward him. But you told him she had money. You put a target on her. Jalen gripped his head. He must think Mom's accounts still have cash. Milan felt as if her lungs collapsed. Jalen, he took her because of you. Security called the police, but Milan knew waiting wouldn't save her mother. Darius had a reputation. Quick deals, quicker violence. Milan stormed out of the hospital. Jalen followed. Where are you going? To get Mom back, Milan said through clenched teeth. You're staying away. But Jalen grabbed her arm. Milan, you can't go alone. She ripped her arm free. You lost that right. Milan drove to Jalen's old neighborhood in East Charlotte, an area filled with run-down apartment complexes, cracked basketball courts and corner stores with flickering neon signs. She knew Darius used to operate out of an abandoned auto shop called Moore's Tire and Service, a place the city shut down years ago. When she arrived, the lot was empty except for a faded Toyota and a pile of rusted tools. The garage door was half open, revealing darkness inside. Milan inhaled sharply and stepped in. The smell of gasoline and mold filled the air. Mom, she whispered. A faint groan echoed. She followed it to a back room, heart pounding against her ribs like a cage. There Renee lay on a makeshift cot, oxygen tank beside her for still attached. Mom. Milan dropped to her knees. Renee stirred, eyes heavy. Milan, you shouldn't be here. Tears streamed down Milan's cheeks. I'm taking you home. But before she could lift her, a deep voice rumbled from behind. She's not going anywhere. Milan spun around to see Darius blocking the door, arms crossed, expression cold. Your brother owes me. And your mother's insurance is the only way he pays. Milan rose slowly. Take me instead. Darius chuckled. You don't have what I need. Milan met his gaze. Shli. I do. Milan reached into her purse and pulled out the Wells Fargo folder. Darius's eyes tracked it immediately. Don't be stupid, he warned. Milan held the folder tightly. This is worth more than whatever Jalen promised you. Darius stepped closer. Show me. Milan shook her head. Let my mother go first. Darius smirked. You think you're negotiating? He snapped his fingers. A second man, broad shoulders, tattooed arms, appeared from the shadows, gripping a metal pipe. Give me the folder, Darius demanded. Milan lifted her chin. If you hurt me, you'll never access the accounts. They're locked with my authorization. Darius paused, calculating. Milan continued, voice steady even though her hands trembled. I transfer the amount you want. You release my mother. No one gets hurt. Darius's jaw ticked. How do I know you won't call the police? Milan stared at him. Because you took my mother. And I'm not leaving without her. After a moment, Darius nodded at his partner. Untie her. The man hesitated. Boss, I said untie her, he snapped. As Renee was freed, Milan helped her sit up, tears spilling with relief. But before they could move, Darius blocked the exit again. Now give me the login details. Milan shook her head. I said after she's safe. Darius's expression hardened. Girl, don't play with me. Milan felt the room tighten around her. She had one chance and one lie that might save them both.
At this point, who do you think is pulling the stunt behind the scene? Drop your theories in the comments.
Milan slowly handed Darius a slip of paper. These are temporary access credentials, she said. They expire in 2 hours. So if you want your money, let us leave. Darius snatched the paper and studied it. It looked legitimate, but Milan had written it hours earlier as a decoy. The real accounts were already frozen. Go, Darius finally commanded. But if this doesn't work, his eyes darkened with warning. Milan nodded, supporting her weak mother as they exited the auto shop. Once outside, she dialed 911 with shaking fingers. My mother has been abducted. We need medical assistance immediately. Before the dispatcher could respond, Milan heard footsteps rushing from behind. Darius burst through the door shouting, It's fake. Milan dragged her mother toward the car. The second man sprinted after them. A gunshot cracked the air. Milan flinched but kept running. Suddenly, tires screeched. A police cruiser swung into the lot, lights flashing. Officers spilled out, weapons drawn. Darius froze. Hands where I can see them, one shouted. The second man dropped the pipe and bolted but was tackled instantly. Milan collapsed beside her mother as paramedics rushed in. Renee squeezed her hand weakly. Protected me, Milan sobbed. You protected me first. But the night wasn't over. Jalen wasn't there. And consequences were coming. At the hospital, doctors stabilized Renee. Milan stayed by her bedside, replaying the nightmare in her mind. Eventually, the police entered with updates. We've arrested Darius Moore and his associate, the officer said. Your brother wasn't with them. Milan exhaled shakily. Where is he? The officer exchanged a look with his partner. We traced calls between your brother and Darius. Your brother fled the state last night. Milan felt her heart fracture. He ran. The officer nodded. We've issued a warrant for questioning. After they left, Milan sat in silence, grief mixing with anger. Her mother stirred. Baby, come here. Milan leaned close. Renee whispered, I left the accounts in your name because I knew Jalen wasn't ready. I didn't want him destroyed by inheritance. Milan swallowed hard. But he almost destroyed us. Renee touched her cheek. Sometimes love blinds us to who people really are. Milan lowered her head. He chose them over family. Renee breathed slowly. You chose courage. And truth. Over the next days, Darius confessed that Jalen had told him about the secret funds, claiming they were family money and available to all. When Milan heard that, something inside her shut off. She had spent years covering for him, excusing him, rescuing him. Now she understood. You cannot save someone who keeps setting fires behind you. She knew what she had to do. Milan met with Rene's attorney 2 days later. Freeze the accounts permanently, she said. And remove Jalen from all access. The attorney nodded. Your mother already designated you primary executor. He handed her a sealed envelope. She asked me to give you this if anything happened. Milan opened it and found a handwritten letter. Milan, you were always my steady one. Protect what matters. I trust you to do what I couldn't. Milan's eyes blurred. Later that evening she received a voicemail from an unknown number. The voice was shaky, desperate. Phone. Milan, please. I'm sorry. I messed up. They tricked me. I need help. Milan's throat tightened, but she didn't call back. Instead, she forwarded the voicemail to the police. She loved her brother, but she would no longer sacrifice herself for him. Days later, detectives informed her that Jalen had turned himself in. Charges were pending. The Carver family name would never be the same, but for the first time in years, Milan felt a strange quiet settle inside her. At home, she sat beside her mother, who was slowly recovering, and whispered, "It's over now." Rene squeezed her hand, relief softening her features. Milan looked toward the window where sunlight spilled through the blinds. She finally understood. Sometimes protecting your family means refusing to shield them from consequences. As Rene's recovery progressed, Milan took charge of their household finances and estate matters. She closed unnecessary accounts, paid off lingering bills, and filed a restraining order to prevent Jalen from manipulating their affairs while legal proceedings unfolded. Her grief still sat heavy, but she pushed through, leaning on late-night peppermint tea from Target and soft jazz playing through her JBL speaker. Eventually, Milan returned to her job at Atrium Health, where co-workers welcomed her back with warmth she didn't expect. One evening, while she sorted billing paperwork, her manager pulled her aside. "We're aware of everything happening with your family," she said gently. "Take whatever time you need." Milan blinked. "Thank you, but working helps." Her manager smiled. "Then let us support you." But when Milan returned home, she found an envelope taped to her front door. No name. No return address. Inside was a printed message. "This isn't over. Jalen owes us. And debts don't disappear." Milan felt the world tilt again. She called the detective immediately. "Someone is threatening me." They took the letter, promised patrols, and advised her to stay vigilant. That night, Milan slept with every light on, heart hammering at every sound. She thought removing Jalen from her life would eliminate danger, but the men he owed still believed she was holding their payday. The following week, Milan met with detectives to review new evidence. Surveillance confirmed a man had followed her from Atrium Health to Target and then home. "He's one of Darius's associates," the detective said grimly. "We believe he's searching for your brother, or for access to the accounts he thinks still exist." Milan clenched her jaw. "But the accounts are closed." "Yes," the detective replied. "But criminals don't follow logic. They follow opportunity." Milan exhaled shakily. "What do they want from me?" "They believe you're hiding money," he said. "They won't stop until they verify you're not." Milan's eyes widened. "So I'm supposed to prove I'm broke?" The detective sighed. "We're assigning protection temporarily. But you need to consider relocating until this is resolved." Milan felt a mix of exhaustion and frustration. She returned home, packed essentials into her Samsonite suitcase, and moved into her mother's hospital-adjacent apartment. Small, cramped, but safer. That night she sat on the bed, staring at the glowing city lights beyond the window. She murmured, "Daddy, why didn't you tell me sooner?" As if on cue, her phone buzzed. A new voicemail, unknown number again. But this time it wasn't Jalen. A deep voice growled, "You're running out of time." The message ended. Milan trembled, knowing the final confrontation was near. The confrontation arrived sooner than she expected. 2 nights later, while returning from the hospital cafeteria with a bag of Panera soup, Milan noticed a figure lurking near the parking garage elevators. She clutched her phone, heart pounding, but kept walking. The man stepped into the light. Same tattooed arm, same cold stare from the auto shop. "We need to talk," he said. Milan backed up. "The police are monitoring." "I'm not here to hurt you," he interrupted. "I'm here to make you a deal." Milan swallowed. "I have nothing for you." The man studied her carefully. That brother of yours still owes money. But Darius, he made mistakes. Big ones. And the people above him? They're not after you anymore. They've moved on. Milan blinked. Moved on. He nodded. They want Jalen. He's the one who lied. Not you. Milan hesitated. So what happens now? The man shrugged. He'll face them or the law. Either way, you're out. Milan exhaled shakily. Why tell me this? The man cracked a faint smile. Because you stood your ground. People like you, you're not prey. He walked away, disappearing into the night. Milan stood frozen, Panera bag shaking in her hands. For the first time in weeks she sensed closure. Not safety, not peace, but truth. Back inside, she sat beside her recovering mother and whispered, "It's finally ending." Renee squeezed her hand. "No, baby," she murmured. "It's beginning." Milan finally understood. Protecting her family didn't mean shielding them from consequences. It meant standing strong no matter who tried to break her.
Thank you for watching till the very end. Family isn't always what it seems, and sometimes the people closest to us can pull us into storms we never deserved. If this story touched you, hit like and subscribe. And tell me, could you forgive a betrayal like this? Let me know in the comments.